Magic Emperor Chapter 886. Santam turned to Zhuo Fan with a puzzled look, and asked why his dad had intentionally kicked her out just to make things more exhausting if everything was already settled. The kid thought this move just made everything pointlessly messy and complicated. That's not it. This is the first step in a psychological tactic called playing hard to get. Zhuo Fan's gaze suddenly sharpened as he calmly explained that kicking the girl out wasn't actually about her, but about the power standing behind her. He told his son to think it through, because if they acted as life-saving benefactors who were too eager to help hide her identity, the other side would easily suspect they had an ulterior motive. Her faction might mistake them for people from the Prince of Flying Clouds manor setting a trap to lure the whole organization in. If that happened, they would never earn those people's trust. However, the current situation is completely flipped. They kicked her out while acting like ordinary, cowardly cultivators who were scared of trouble and only saved her because they had to. When those people are backed into a corner by the Prince of Flying Clouds manor with no way out, they'll definitely come here to try and use him and his son. But what's the reality? He and his son are the ones actually calling the shots and pulling the strings. In this game, every move needs to be calculated down to the last detail to guarantee a win. Santam nodded in agreement, realizing his dad knew all along she couldn't escape and had let her go on purpose to bait the big players behind her. Exactly. That target is going to fall into the trap sooner or later. Zhuo Fan gave a light chuckle and walked off, making sure to close the door carefully behind him. Later, as they headed toward the backyard, Zhuo Fan asked Santam where he'd been hiding for the past 3 days. I was just wandering around the city to get a feel for the place, but because I look like a kid, I got blocked from a lot of spots I wanted to check out. Maybe you can take me on a tour tomorrow so I can see for myself. That's easy. Of course we can. For now, let's just chill, wait for news, and enjoy ourselves. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan looked at Santam with eyes full of affection. The boy was thrilled, jumping around playfully and acting just like a normal kid his age. The next day, Zhuo Fan took Santam to see all the famous spots in Flying Cloud City. The father and son had a great time on their trip, never once mentioning work or their original plans. By the 3rd day, they were hitting up restaurants for great food and spending some quality time together. Over the following days, from the 4th to the 5th, they just kept having fun and enjoying their break. Late on the 10th night, as Santam was excitedly running into the courtyard with Zhuo Fan trailing behind, they both suddenly stopped when they saw someone there. The woman who had left 10 days ago was standing right in front of them. She looked totally wrecked with a gaunt face, and all that initial pride was completely gone. Seeing Zhuo Fan and his son, she looked awkward, her eyes filled with anxiety and shame. Even though he'd seen this coming, Zhuo Fan played dumb and asked why she was back. Don't ask so many questions. After a faint click, the woman quickly drew her sword and pointed it right at Zhuo Fan's face. Looking both embarrassed and desperate, she declared she was staying there from now on. She forbade them from kicking her out and warned them absolutely not to tip off the Prince of Flying Clouds manor. If they did, she threatened to get violent and make sure they didn't live to see tomorrow. Just like they thought, this girl had been pushed to the edge and had nowhere else to turn. The father and son shared a look, secretly stoked that their plan had worked out perfectly. In a place like Flying Cloud City with heavy patrols by top-tier experts, someone at the 8th layer ethereal stage would have a hard time escaping. In the end, she was forced to crawl back here for a place to hide, acting all rude like some kind of bandit. If you knew it would end like this, you shouldn't have insisted on leaving and making life so hard on yourself in the first place. Weren't you acting all high and mighty back then? Haha. Zhuo Fan looked her in the eye and sighed. Fine. If you want to stay, go ahead, but there's no need to go around threatening his. Even though I hate trouble, our lives are in your hands right now, so it's not like I have a choice, right? Thinking about how a lady who was usually gentle now had to act like a thug just to get a place to stay, she couldn't help but shudder. Realizing how ridiculous she was being, she felt incredibly bitter and sorry for herself. You still have the nerve to make fun of me. Isn't it because you heartlessly kicked me out that I ended up like this? She started sobbing uncontrollably. Do you have any idea how miserable it's been hiding out for the past 10 days? I was constantly terrified of running into the prince's men. I didn't dare stay at a hotel, and when I tried hiding in a regular house, I almost got caught. Flying Cloud City is massive, but I couldn't find a single place to hide, and I've been running scared all day long. If I hadn't come back here, I definitely would have been caught. And yet you still have the heart to call me a she-devil. Oh that I. After she finished, she cried out loud like a little kid. Seeing this, Zhuo Fan just shook his head and laughed to himself. Actually, kicking her out was part of the plan, because only after hitting rock bottom outside would she truly see this place as a safe house. Alright, Your old room is still empty, so just think of this as your home from now on. The door creaked open, and Zhuo Fan pointed toward her old room, while throwing in a few more teases. She sniffled and looked at Zhuo Fan with gratitude, feeling a strange sense of warmth. After those rough days of being hunted, being back here made her feel as peaceful as if she were in her own home. Zhuo Fan invited her in, and then casually turned to walk away. Looking at his back, she suddenly asked if the two of them had been out having a blast the last few days. Zhuo Fan sobbed and asked her back if going out was against the law or something. You really treat your son well. She'd noticed how close the two of them were from their trips around the city over the last 10 days. Zhuo Fan acted surprised and said it was only natural for a father to love his kid. What's so weird about that? But you said yourself that you abandoned your wife. Her eyes were full of suspicion. How could a dad who loves his son so much be so cold-hearted toward the kid's mother? Zhuo Fan smiled and explained that men keep their feelings for women and their kids totally separate. How could a young girl like you understand that kind of stuff? Without explaining any further, Zhuo Fan just walked off. However, as he turned away, a deep sadness flickered in his eyes, and he let out a heavy, weary sigh. The woman was annoyed because she thought he was messing with her, but she also noticed how his mood swung back and forth. This made her feel like he was a mysterious guy who was definitely hiding some big secret. After thinking for a bit, she didn't go inside right away, but quietly headed toward the backyard. Under the bright moonlight, Hugh Santon was totally absorbed in playing with some toys on a stone table. Even though he was actually over 300 years old, the kid still had a very childish side. Those days out with his dad had helped him reconnect with that family feeling and show his innocent side. The boy had been following Zhuo Fan around constantly, begging for all sorts of toys. While he was playing, Hugh Santon noticed someone appear behind him. Even though he knew exactly who it was, he pretended not to notice and kept playing with the toy in his hand. That's because Zhuo Fan had told him to play the part of a normal kid perfectly. You're Gu Santom, right? The woman smiled as she walked over and complimented the cool toy his dad had bought him. Gu Santom gave her a cold look and told her to either say what she had to say or go to bed to stay healthy. This kid is something else. The woman was stunned for a second and got annoyed by the boy's attitude. She couldn't wrap her head around why a kid would be so arrogant. Still, she figured it was the father's fault for raising the kid to be so unpleasant. She tried to keep her cool, smiled, and reminded the boy that he should be more polite to her. I don't need to be polite to someone who's always threatening my dads and my lives. Hugh Santom gave a cold snort and didn't give her an inch. She was absolutely fuming. The woman was so mad she was literally shaking. She realized that the father and son had the exact same personality. The words of this father and son always made the listener feel extremely uncomfortable. However, she told herself to be patient so she could eventually uncover the truth.